Hello, once again, everyone. I'm Bob Colt, and we're continuing on conversations in the Lansing School District. This week, Rachel Willis is with us. And Rachel, thank you for joining us, even though it's remote. I know you're probably one of the busiest people in the world, and you're vice president of the Lansing School District Board of Education. Rachel, tell us, how do you think it's going? Everybody kind of had a rough start with this COVID, but we seem to be making some progress.
Yeah, thank you, Bob. Thanks for having me here. It's been just a very interesting, incredible time these last 2 years. And, you said this virtual world, I don't think I've experienced too much outside of meeting folks and seeing folks through a camera screen over the last year and a half. When I think about the last year, I think about that infamous day everybody talks about in March of 2020, when the governor said, everybody go home. We need to try to slow down the spread of this virus. And the Lansing School District really seriously looked at how do we continue to keep kids safe, and make sure that we're protecting our children and our families and our staff. And we never could have imagined that things would have transpired the way they did over the last 18 months. But I will tell you, one of the things I've sort of thought about as a positive over the last 18 months, this school year, we reopened buildings that had been closed for a year and a half. And by doing that, we found some kinks in the infrastructure of our building that probably would have just been overlooked and had some Band-Aids put on them for the last year. But thankfully, under the guidance of our new superintendent, he's doing a very thorough look at the physical plant of all of our buildings and is going through and helping us make a reassessment of where we can do some upgrades in parts of buildings that weren't touched by the Pathway Promise Bond, which I think is really incredible. So that's a little bit of a silver lining to this whole situation we've experienced.
You're an Everett Viking alum. And I got to tell you, with the millions of dollars we've put into Everett, it is almost like a brand new school.
It is incredible. And I just cannot get over the performance art wing and the new band room. I don't like to use the word jealous, but I would have enjoyed my time, I think, a little bit more if I had been able to perform and have my band and orchestra classes in that area. But I'm very thankful every day that we passed that $120 million bond to be able to do those upgrades.
I do want you to talk about something new in the Lansing School District this year, and we've got free pre-K education. It's something really to be proud of. We're one of the few school districts in the state to do that.
Bob, being the mother of a 2-year-old, there are a few things more exciting than the thought of not having to pay a bill or a tuition bill, or just having that access to early childhood education for my little one. So I think about all the children and families that this will be able to impact. I'm very happy that we're looking as a school district earlier on in the education continuum for our kids, and being able to offer this opportunity and being the only one in the area that's doing that. I think that's absolutely just incredible.
And it's not daycare. Right. It really is an educational program. That must be significant for a young mother like yourself looking forward.
Yeah. I mean, at school, I think about that with my little one, who I'm juggling working from home with. And I look at her every day and I'm like, okay, how many books can I read that I can read to her to help her learn and make sure she knows her colors and make sure she knows she's prepared. And we're constantly doing shapes and animals. But I have so much respect for the educational field. I'm not a teacher by trade. I'm a social worker. So being able to put our young children in front of trained educators who do this for a living and understand how to teach our young ones in preparation for a traditional K-12 schooling at no cost to families is just completely incredible.
It really is incredible that we were able to do it at no cost, but there were a lot of circumstances that allowed us to do that. And actually, we count those kids just like any other kid. So there is some return on this kind of investment, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a benefit to the school district that we count those kids as FTEs and are able to have them in our enrollment count for the school district. But just like we've experienced with our K-12 education, that we know that the foundation allowance doesn't necessarily cover all of the costs to operating a school district. And so that's why it was an intentional investment made by the Lansing School District to be able to offer this programming. But it's something that we think is critically important. I think about how, as we've evolved with the Promise scholarships and the Hope scholarships and our Lansing Saves program, we know that the earlier and the younger you start to introduce education and long-term attainment for the kids, the more successful that they will be.
And I would think that kids who grow up in this COVID kind of environment are not going to be thinking about not wearing a mask. It's kind of natural for them. It's a natural part of education now.
Yeah, my little one actually gets nervous now if we go places and we don't have masks, unless we're in our home. She's kind of like looks at us and looks at the other adults in the room and makes sure we're wearing our masks. So I think that recognizing public health and safety is something that our kids are naturally attuned for. I don't think if anything looks like a touchless thermometer, my kid is trying to take her temperature with it or taking the temperature of other people with it because she's so used to having screenings when we go into different places. So I think that, our kids, it's something we've had to adapt to. But we've been very successful with the use of wearing masks and the reduction of transmission of the virus in our school district. So, anything that we can do that's watching the data to tell us how to keep our kids safe, that's what we're going to do.
It is amazing because a year ago, everything was online. Lansing was one of the few districts who made that safety decision, as difficult as it was to keep things online. And we spent a lot of time preparing the rooms with air systems and cleaners and making sure that we were ready. And as kids come back, it's not been a bad experience. We've had some busing issues, but as they come back to school, people really appreciate being back in the classroom, both the kids and the teachers.
Yeah, something that we've even seen is pretty steady attendance in our secondary schools, which just the kids just wanted to be back in school, and we knew that, and we wanted them to be back in school, physically in the classroom, I should say, in-person learning as best as we could last year. But the data was just showing us that it wasn't quite safe yet to do that. But I think that the kids have really adjusted to this being the new normal. And I have adjusted to all of the accommodations we've had to do as far as staggering and trying to reduce congregations of groups of students as they probably were used to, but just even being in the building together has been a significant improvement for our kids.
I think people don't see behind some of the numbers and all of the numbers of kids who may contract COVID in some way are open and people can follow it. But what we found, which I thought was amazing, I'd love your reaction to this, is kids weren't getting COVID at school. They might have gotten it in their families and then would actually come to school. And so they would be counted, but we would know really who they were. And we did a great job in protecting other kids.
Yeah, that was actually great that you mentioned that. Something that the school district has implemented in all of our buildings are these observation rooms, where anytime we have a known exposure or a kid comes to school and we're contact tracing them back that they know they have a known exposure or they're showing symptoms, we're able to put them in these observation rooms that are well ventilated. Staff have additional PPE while they're observing kids in these rooms. And we're able to get those kids away from the general population, contact their parents, make sure that we are getting additional support and care for these kids. We know that even though kids transmit COVID at a much lower rate than maybe adults, and we can sort of control it, we still don't want our kids getting sick. And as much as we can control that and have our kids receive proper care as quickly as we can, that's something that we're continuing to do. So I think that's a great point. In these observation rooms, I think are a great asset for us within the school district.
And they're staffed by a new group of people, medical assistants, along with nurses.
We just, got through that hiring process with being able to get some more of our medical staff hired in. The school district is not exempt from all of the staffing issues that the entire nation is facing, but I'm thankful that our school district and our superintendent were very intentional about the pay rate, frankly, for these positions to make them attractive so that people really can understand that this is something that we are investing of high importance so that we can protect our staff and our children.
How do you think this COVID environment may have changed education thinking going forward? Because, I think I suspect what's happening is a lot of kids with colds may not even be coming to school because they segregate. They're kind of on health high alert. It's really almost a good thing as one of the fallouts from COVID, isn't it?
Yeah, one of the things we're very much pushing, if you're sick, stay home. If you're sick with anything that's communicable, we need to be taking extra caution and risk with. And I even have that same experience with my little one being in daycare. Fevers can happen for all types of reasons. And it may be a communicable disease that's not COVID, but we still don't want that spreading around our schools either. So the big thing is watch your symptoms. If you're sick, stay home. Make sure that you're taking precautionary measures, washing your hands, doing what you can to reduce interactions with other people, staying 6 feet away. And we really, want our kids to be safe, and we want our staffs to be safe and our families to be safe. I think everybody has evolved in what they thought was necessary and normal a couple of years ago. Even in my work environment, reasons for being in the physical office space have changed, and really looking at when you do things that are only necessary, should you be having physical contact with other people. And I know that being separated from people, we're social beings as humans by nature. And so I know that can be a little bit difficult, but protecting safety now so that we can be together in the long term is critically important.
It seems that kids too really are appreciating school more, not only the educational part, but the extracurricular activities that they didn't get during really the height of COVID. How important do you think those activities are to an education?
Yeah, we've always known that social emotional learning and development is just as critical as the academic side. And things that enhance social emotional learning, in addition to feeling like a student reaches high levels of educational achievement, there's also that social side that they get through extracurriculars. So whether that be music, art, physical education, sports, all of those things we know go hand in glove with educational attainment. We know that kids that learn and are exposed to music at earlier ages read and have higher levels of attainment. We've always known these things. And so it was a hard choice, over the last year when we knew that exposure to some of these extracurriculars would be reduced. We did as much as we could virtually, we still, sent art kits home and had kids exposed to things, but it's not the same as when you're sticking your hand in the mud when you're making pottery, or actually having paintbrushes in your hand and hearing music live. We know that that's different. And so being able to offer those as safely and frequently as we can are critically important, which is why it's important that people only come to school when they're healthy so that we don't have to reduce the opportunities that kids can have to remain in person.
One of the wild things we were able to do, and it's just incredible, the folks in the school district, you and others who work on the idea, we created for those parents or kids who might not feel safe, we created an online school to really meet that need. And no one else has done that.
Yeah, so we want our kids back in school. But we also wanted to have that choice. So, and I think about that even last year, we had the learning labs available for folks to take their kids places in person, have that extra support. Very thankful for our community partners that kept those open all year for us last year so that kids could be in a physical space. And that was what was necessary to support the families. So thinking in that same vein, we were like, okay, there's going to be kids that need to be in person last year. So we had the learning labs. Same thing this year, we said there's some kids that are going to need to stay home. So how do we continue to offer that opportunity? And so we have over 700 kids enrolled in our K-12 online school, which goes to show that that need was still there. And that 700 kids at our district is able to educate and teach this year that we wouldn't have had access to had we not offered this opportunity. So I'm very thankful for the innovation of our leadership and our superintendent and executive team to say, how do we continue to meet our families where they are and have these access for opportunities, just like we did last year with the learning labs? I think about it, it's just the flip. And we said, okay, who needs to stay online? And because we were so robust and engaged and comprehensive with how we did online schooling last year, we were able to roll that over into our online schooling for this year. And it's actually been pretty funny. We haven't actually met our K-12 online principal yet in person because they're always online taking care of online things, which is just par for the course, and it's perfect.
I do want to talk a little bit about your leadership in Lansing. You've been on the school board a long time. We have regular board meetings and meetings where the public can attend and give some input. We welcome and are always trying to encourage that. But we're seeing some really negative things around the country and school boards under attack. You see it. It doesn't happen in Lansing, but you see what's happening around the nation. Talk a little bit about why Lansing has maybe been more successful, maybe because we've always listened.
Yeah, so I was elected to the school board in 2011. And I actually have had quite a few conversations with folks about how that 2010-2011 school year was a little rough for the Lansing School District. And that was when we were having a lot of budget issues and staffing issues and just a lot of significant concerns with the school district at that time. And I think about all of the transitions that we've had since then. And we used to have school board meetings where it was standing room only. We even invested in monitors in the hallways so that we could have overflow and have evolved the way that we've done online interactions with us because people really needed to meet with us. And we've been very intentional about making sure folks can access us, whether it's through Let's Talk or an email address or through our superintendent's office, and message us anytime. And so we've been watching as school board members, these meetings around the country where, school boards have had to abruptly end their meetings, or they've had hours and hours of public comment and very contentious school board meetings. And so every Thursday evening, we all kind of look around and go, okay, what's the chatter? What are we hearing? And thankfully, we've had mostly people come to us and say, hey, thanks for just making a decision and telling us what we need to know. That's what families really need. And I think that our community has been very responsive and embracing of the actions that have been done by our school board. I think we're very transparent and accessible. And I think that is what has made the difference. And in our community, having trust in the actions that we're making. We always want feedback though. So anytime the school board members can be contacted, please, we show our videos on YouTube, we stream them on our website. We want to make sure that people know in real time what decisions we're making so they know what to expect.
Well, the civility at a Board of Education meeting in Lansing is one to really take note of, because you've been a leader. You've helped create that atmosphere of openness and transparency, and Congratulations. Rachel Willis, our guest this week on Conversations. I'm Bob Colt, and we'll continue our conversations in the Lansing School District.